and we are blessed on this momentous occasion to speak to you about Gold in the Crisis, yet another installment. And though it grieves me in my heart to say that this is the last set of classes that I'll be conducting, I am happy to close this out knowing that we will be opening up the trading cryptocurrency and Forex class. We're going digital, so make sure you definitely reserve your seat for our online class, Going Digital, Wealth in the Pandemic. Okay, we're gonna turn the pandemic into a paydemic. We're gonna make money while everybody else is worried about where the next dollars is gonna come in, if they're gonna keep their job, if they can get a job. We're creating a culture out of amassing wealth. So be sure to get your online seating ahead of time. It's $99 right now. Going Digital, Wealth in the Pandemic, Trading Cryptocurrency and Forex. This will take place Sunday, November 8th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. November 8th. Get it now. It will be somewhat higher by that date, but let's get it in. I taught them how to buy $1 with a few pennies. Be sure to realize that when this class concludes, this is one of the last classes, when the cryptocurrency course commences, this course will be finalized. It'll be done. And in light of that, this book will officially and finally be released. I do it this way to make sure that I can put as much data inside of this publication so that nothing contradicts the momentum of the virtual class. I want to make sure that when you get this publication, there's no redundancy. I want to make sure that this publication, this tome, is complementary to this virtual class. Plus, this tome also comes with 15 authentic tutorial videos to help elaborate and expound on the themes that you find in this tome that are complementary to this course. So it's not the same thing that you see in the course. So just when you think you got it all figured out in the course, the book will give you all the other things, particularly the nuances that I may not have felt at liberty of sharing during the online class, because the online class has to have a certain level of speed and momentum. But with the textbook, you can really take the time out and really go through these things meticulously and at your own pace. So without further ado, this is Gold in the Crisis, the last classes. That's what this is. You've been in the John Wick class. If you're in the UCC and real estate course, you've been in the Matrix class. This is simply the last classes, and what we'll do is revisit some of the things that we have learned throughout the course of this particular course. But now that we have gained so much momentum and so much knowledge, we can revisit some of these things and highlight data that you might have overlooked, in addition to sharing more information about some of the things that we didn't spend as much time on that is just as valuable. So today we're going to deal with dividends. And so I want to revisit this slide, but be sure to go to or refer to We Have Options. You can go to We Have Options and you'll win just by revisiting it. So that's where you can get the bulk of the information in terms of dividends. So right now, dividends. Invest in companies that share their profits. This is ideal. When we're talking about something paying dividends, when we talk about companies that give dividends, we're talking about companies that will pay you for investing in them. That's important. So invest in companies that share their profits. We have right here growth stocks versus dividend paying stocks. Like I said, you go back to We Have Options and you'll be able to do your thing with that. Growth stocks are stocks that's not paying dividends, but they grow fast. You put money in it and you could get a quick turnaround. Dividend paying stocks are not those type of stocks. That's for the long haul. That's for the companies that you invest in that are willing to give you a small percentage of money back just for investing in their company. And then they allocate some of their returns into the same business that you invested in. So that's a different phenomenon. So the understanding is growth stocks don't distribute or pay dividends. You just out there, you living off the land. If it goes up, it goes down, that's what you're subject to. Dividends, if it goes up, it goes down, yeah, but dividend paying stocks normally won't grow as fast as the growth stocks grow. Hence the reason they're called growth stocks, in contrast to dividend paying stocks. It doesn't mean the dividend paying stocks don't grow fast, it just means the pace at which it grows. It's more about longevity when it comes to investing. Take note of the ticker symbol in this particular case. We are going to visit KO. That is the ticker symbol for Coca-Cola. Most companies make payouts 4 times a year. Keep that in mind. I love to get my monies 4 times a year. Every 3 months, pay me. Give me my dividends every 3 months. I love it. So a yield is equal to what you will make for the year. The declaration date is determined if or when payouts will be made. That's the declaration date. So that's when they say, hey, we'll pay you on this date. That's called the declaration date. Then you have the X date. The X date is when you buy the day before the X date to get a payout. All right. So the X date is you have every day up until that day, which is the last day you can invest in the company to get a return. That's the X date. So the declaration date is when they will actually pay you your dividend. The X date is the last day you can buy that particular stock and get shares and get a return for investing in that company to get shares. That's called the X date. And then lastly, you have the record date or the record date. And that is the acknowledgement that you got your money in enough time so you can be paid per that declaration date. Your ownership in the company is acknowledged. That's the record date. The X date is the last day you can pay, so you can be acknowledged. The X date and the record date are not on the same day. They're normally a couple days apart, the X date and the record date. Okay, so let's get that right. Let's move forward. Here we have a slide you should be familiar with, the dividend history for Coca-Cola. I just want you guys to look to the extreme left. You see the X date right here. So this would tell you, okay, the payment or the payouts will be made in this column right here. These are your X dates on the extreme left. The amount is the dividends that will be paid. And if you look at Coca-Cola, okay, this is what we would call a blue chip stock. If you look at Coca-Cola, you'll realize that the numbers are gradual and they gradually go up. And that's very promising because we're looking down to 2014, 2013, 2012, and we could say, okay, they went from 25 cents, and now even in this recession, they still are giving you 41 cents. We'll talk about this, all right? And so we discussed what the yield is, okay, per annual. You have the declaration date. So here we have the X date, all right? They say we're gonna pay you the dividends, in this particular instance, on June 12th. Right here it tells you, right? Or pardon me, right here you're looking at the X dividend date, and you're looking at the declaration date, and then you're looking at the date in which it's recorded, the date in which you're being acknowledged for making the payment. All right, and then here we go, boom. Look at the pay date. So the pay date you see right here. So you're gonna get your last monies in. Your last monies. The last time you could pay will be on what? June 12th. You'll be acknowledged by June 15th that you paid. Then your pay date will be July 1st. So you see it is 3 days in between. So the last day you can invest in this dividend paying stock would be June 12th, 2020. And then you see right here, June 15th is when it's recorded that you paid. So we will have to pay you on the day that we're going to give it out, which is 7/1/2020. And let me say this, the declaration date, what that does, to be more clear, the declaration date is going to let you know that they will be paying dividends. But this is to let you know we're going to let you know if we are or we're not going to pay dividends. Let's put it like that. So the declaration date lets you know when they confirm we will be making payments. So they declare, as of 4/22nd, they made it clear, oh yeah, we're en route. We're definitely going to be paying dividends this year. They're making it clear. We're definitely going to be paying dividends. And by the way, the X date is going to be June 12th. And by the way, we'll record you or acknowledge you June 15th. And by the way, we'll actually make the payment on the 1st of July. Okay? So now you have everything in proper context. The X date, the declaration date, the recording date, and the pay date. All right, and we know what the yield is. So this is what you want to focus on. Now we're going to go back into the golden crisis early in the game. And we read this quote: the Chinese use 2 brush strokes to write the word crisis. One brush stroke stands for danger, the other for opportunity. In a crisis, be aware of the danger, but recognize the opportunity. Hence the reason why we call this course Gold in the Crisis. Right now we're dealing with the pandemic. We're dealing with the end of the year, particularly on an election year. There will be a great deal of volatility on the stock market. Volatility is always great when it comes to us doing our investing, especially when we are in a time where there is a recession or the economy is on the brink of this total destruction, when they're telling you the stock market's going to crash, which it already did. This is a good thing for people like us. So the Chinese use 2 brush strokes to write the word crisis. One brush stroke stands for danger, the other for opportunity. In a crisis, be aware of the danger, but recognize the opportunity. This is a quote from JFK. This is a crisis quote from JFK, Commander-in-Chief at that time, of course. So here we have executing the drip. Again, go back to your earlier classes, and what you'll see is we speak to you about the DRIP, the Dividend Reinvestment Program. That's what we're focusing on today. But now we're going to be able to expound in greater detail. And what I want you guys to focus on is and there's tutorials here to show you how to go to Fidelity. We have tutorials to show you how to go to Fidelity and find out how to set up your dividend reinvestment program. That's what DRIP stands for. What this means essentially is that you're setting the stage for the monies that you get from your dividends to be reinvested or allocated back into the company from which it derives. So if you get a return from Coca-Cola, you setting your system up automatically to put that same money back into Coca-Cola. And over a while, you will compound interest. If you do nothing for the rest of your life, you will eventually have more shares, which will translate into what? More dividends. So that's what we have to hone in on, because when we first started this class, there was so much to introduce to you, and I wanted to keep the momentum because so much money and opportunity was available. I didn't want to prolong the process or miss out on certain pertinent opportunities to make money. So when I did this course, the money was moving. Right now, we're back in that space where the money's moving. That's why I have the crypto course and Forex course coming up. It's most ideal when you are on an election year, at the end of the year, obviously. During a pandemic at that, you need to make sure you get up in that class. So the first thing I want to discuss with you today is, what is passive income? I highlighted one part of the Investopedia definition, and I always tell you guys, Investopedia is a great venue to learn information because they not only give you written definitions, they also give you corresponding charts, graphs, and even videos on occasion to further elaborate on what they're talking about. So right here, per Investopedia, passive income is earnings derived from a rental property, limited partnership, or other enterprise in which a person is not actively involved. As with active income, passive income is usually taxable. However, it is often treated differently by the Internal Revenue Service. March 3rd, 2020. That's this entry from Investopedia. Why is this important? I always like to focus in on the key thing that should resonate with me. When I read the meaning of passive income, yeah, rental property, limited partnership, enterprise, all of that sounds amazing. But here's the part I'm focused on. I highlighted it up here for you guys. In which a person is not actively involved. This means when you're going to sleep, you're making money. This means when you're having sex, you're making money. This means when you're watching movies, you're making money. This means when you daydream, you're making money. That's passive income. When you don't necessarily have to lift up a fry box, clock in somewhere, stand for hours, be security, be a cashier, be a clerk, be a secretary. When you know at any given point in time during the day, you will be making money because whatever you invested in, you set the stage for revenue to be generated, potentially wealth to be amassed, with little to no activity on your behalf. And by little activity, I mean maybe you just go and check and see what's in your account. Oh man, there's definitely more money in there than it was prior. That's the only activity we're talking about. So passive income is the name of the game. Pensions are supposed to be understood as passive income. But if you're not taught the perspective that pensions should be passive income, then you're sitting here actively working on making money that you'll get back later on in the future. What I'm showing you is that you need to create your own pension out of businesses that pay you off, that pay dividends. Literally pay dividends. So passive income, pension plans should be passive income, meaning it should be businesses that you erected that you don't have to actively participate in, that there's a recurring theme called revenue that's constantly being generated that you don't really, it doesn't demand your intercession. Passive income is what we're talking about today. So I need you guys to make sure you focus on this definition right here, forward dividend. What is a forward dividend yield? A forward dividend yield is an estimation of a year's dividend expressed as a percentage of the current stock price. The year's projected dividend is measured by taking a stock's most recent actual dividend payment and annualizing it, meaning looking at it on a per year continuum. The forward dividend yield is calculated by dividing a year's worth of future dividend payments by a stock's current share price. So what this means is dividend yield equals annual dividend per share over price per share times 100. I know you may be like, oh, what the heck is that? This is just a model. So we go again. What is a forward dividend yield? A forward dividend yield is an estimation of a year's dividend expressed as a percentage of the current stock price. The year's projected dividend is measured by taking a stock's most recent actual dividend payment and annualizing it, that is to say, per year, making it measure out to increments of a year. The forward dividend yield is calculated by dividing a year's worth of future dividend payments by a stock's current share price. Okay, and I left you the link here for Investopedia because they have some charts and graphs to outline it a little further. But don't let this slow you down in the progress that you're making. It's just important for you to understand this terminology. We're always speaking about the nomenclature of the genre that we're studying, so you definitely need that. The Coca-Cola company, that's what we're looking at, KO. I want to use this as an example. There's some data here. Right now we're on Yahoo Finance. Take a look at this chart right here. All right, the part of the chart I want you to look at, I want you to look at this market cap, because I want you to notice that they're at $214.901 billion. That's Coca-Cola. That's insane. And so that's going to be important because of the type of stock that Coca-Cola is. It's a blue chip stock. Most blue chip stocks idealistically will be worth or have a market capitalization of $1 billion upward. Blue chip stocks, so put that into the nomenclature. Blue chip stocks traditionally would have 1 billion upwards in market capitalization. The reason why market capitalization is important because it's a signifier for a blue chip stock most times, which in turn will lead us to know if we are interested in investing in a company because of the dividends it pays out. This is part of the criteria to which we know this is a good investment that we're making. It's not the end all, it's not the only thing that's part of our criteria, but for now we also want to consider market capitalization. The market cap must be $1 billion upward. We also want to know that the company is a household name. Coca-Cola is a household name because when you're talking about dividends, you don't want a company that pays you for investing in them and then the next thing you know, they're not doing it next year or they're not doing it 10 years from now, or there's a recession, there's a pandemic, and all of a sudden they're not going to pay you your dividends, they're not going to give you a percentage, or the dividends go significantly lower. So what we're doing here essentially, we're going to find out, we're going to map out the criteria to which end we say it suffices to invest in a company that gives dividends, because when we check off this list called our criteria, we'll say, oh, okay, bet. We're looking at a market cap of $1 billion upward. We're looking at the fact that this company here, right, based on its dividend history, we can tell that they've been rocking for over 100 years. They've been rocking for over 60 years. These are things we're interested in, because we'll be dead by 100 years. And if they have a good 60-year run, that's pretty good too. We want to know that no matter what the state or the condition of the economy, that they remain consistent and gradual. As in gradually growing, gradually giving you more for your investment. These are things that you want to consider. You don't want to just, oh, well, this is a dividend paying stock, but then you also got short-term dividend paying investments and long-term dividend paying investments. So for your long-term dividend paying investments, I'm giving you some of the criteria. So we're going to discuss this EPS, their earnings, right? We're going to discuss the forward dividend and yield. That's what we just was talking about. We want to know that because the forward dividend yield is letting us know how much they're going to pay us on a year-to-year basis. And at what percentage. Okay, so we see that they got a percentage at 3.28%, which is that bad. You know, if they're around 2.4, 2.5, you're treading, but you're doing good. You don't want to lower than that as far as the forward dividend and yield. Don't let the numbers perplex you. Just understand these are the numbers you're looking for. That's the first thing. I'm giving you the criteria so you already know, yo, this is what I got to do. Because we don't have the time to put you through no 6-7 month course. Yet, the way I did this class, I did it on a Sunday to Sunday, Sunday to Sunday continuum. That's what I did. So you have enough data that when you put it all together, this can work out for you greatly. But at this moment, I don't want you guys to miss out on opportunities that are before you. So please just take the criteria. And that's why I gave you those Investopedia links so you can look at charts and you can look at graphs, you can look at videos. I never come to you in ego and don't direct you to other places where you can compound interest in terms of your study and your knowledge. So yes, I produce materials for you to study, obviously, because it goes with my concept and approach towards investing. But then on other occasions, it's important that you also continue furthering your studies. And I like to give you great direction to further your studies because it worked out for me, so I want it to work out for you. I can only tell you from my personal experience, Investopedia is an amazing platform that goes through lengths that I have yet to see other platforms go through to educate the host of people. So yeah, get it. You can read it, graph, charts, and videos. What more you want? They're feeding you that information. Let's go to the next slide. So now I'm honing in more on just this part of what we was looking at for Coca-Cola as an example. Yes, obviously Coca-Cola is one of the companies I would invest in as far as dividend investments are concerned. So we need to look at this FDY, right? The forward dividend and yield. The forward dividend yield is the payout for the year. This is what they're paying for the whole year. $1.64. Got us at a decent 3.28%. If you see anything around 2.4 and up, you're in the realm of decent. Once you start getting into threes, the upper threes, you're cooking. But this is decent. 3.28% on $1.64 forward dividend yield, FDY payout for the year. This is great. Walk with me. Let's go down. Now we're going to check our earnings. Earnings is right here where it says EPS. So the earnings is $2.12 per year. They pay out $1.64, which means there's a 48 cents difference that they use to reinvest back into the company. What does this actually mean? What does that 48 cents represent? Well, what we understand is the earnings must be higher than the payout. Does that make sense? If the earnings are not higher, $2.12, then the payout, that's a failing business model. Because now the company doesn't have any monies left to reinvest into itself. So if the company is earning $2.12 and they're paying out dividends of $1.64, then the difference is what they have to reinvest back into the company, which is 48 cents. This will put them where? Well, 25% is a great marker if you start dividend investing. So 25% of $2.12 will give you 53 cents right here. Right? So at 53 cents, 25% of $2.12 would give you $2.17. If we're looking for a 25% marker, we came up 5 cents shy of our 25% marker because they're at $2.12. I have enough faith in them because they're a household name, plus we're dealing with a pandemic, that they will not only transcend the 25% marker, it'll go higher in another year and a half or two. Coca-Cola's here to stay. Warren Buffett hasn't sold anything since he bought into it. Okay? And he's not the only billionaire that has. So 25% is our marker. If we're 5 cents shy, pennies off of millionaires, we don't undermine the 5 cents yet. It's still a great investment because we understand this company. We know the name of this company. It is a blue chip stock. That means we're familiar with it. Most people around the world are familiar with it. That means the market cap is over $1 billion. We're looking at 214 plus. So we okay with this. We want to know that the percentage based on their earnings is at least around 25% in retrospect to their payouts. So after they make their payout, we want to know that it's not lower than 25%. We feel safe investing in a company like that. But idealistically, for long-term stocks, and this Coca-Cola can't be a long-term stock because it loaned itself so much credibility through lasting through several recessions and depressions and continuously paying people for investing in them. A company like Coca-Cola, I will always put my money in, even around 25 cents. Even if it's teetering a little under 25 cents, I will always invest in them. And I would make them the exception to the long-term criteria because of their history. That's why you want to look up dividend history. You look into the charts for dividend history. But for now, I will also tell you, long-term blue chip stocks, you want the criteria to be set at 30% or higher. Those are the stocks that you really want to put your money in when you're talking about dividend reinvestment programs, the DRIP. When you're talking about the DRIP, when you're talking about saying, I want to make enough money from them paying me back money, that by the time the end of the year comes, that same money just gets reallocated or reinvested back into the same stock. What you also could do is you can invest in short-term dividend reinvestment programs. Let's say Coca-Cola being at 25% doesn't exactly meet your full criteria for the long term. So you may say, I'm going to take 2 or 3 stocks that's under 25%, but over 19%. But then I got one long term at 30%. And what I'm going to do, since this is short term, I'm just making my money now. I ain't really feeling the vibe with these guys, but I know they're pretty good for 2-3 years from now. What I'm going to do is allocate the monies from the dividends that come from those less than 25% companies into the 30% company. You could do that on Fidelity. So you got short-term dividend reinvestment programs and allocate the revenue streams from those short-term investments into your long-term investments. Okay, and that's the long-term blue chip stock that we're talking about at 30%. And I'll give you an example of one. If I give you an example of something, there's always one that I, to preference, use. So let's do this. Let's slow down. Let's get a dividend outlook. You know what the dividend yield is, okay? This is what they're paying per year. Earnings higher than dividend payout. We want to focus on that. You want to always make sure that the company's earnings is higher than the dividend payout. You want to find yourself around 25% if it's on short term. But if it's a company as reputable as Coca-Cola, you may even make that your long term. especially during this pandemic, because we understand it's going to go past 25% after this pandemic. And we look at their dividend payout history, and we can tell based on their dividend payout history that they've survived every calamity since they've existed and gained the momentum that has given them the rapport that they have world over. Okay, so we want to know that their earnings is higher than the dividend payout. So there's a difference there that they're able to reinvest back into their own company. You want to make sure that the amount that they're able to reinvest back into their own company exceeds 25%. And if you want to invest long term, you want it to be around 30% upwards. This is why I did not teach this at the beginning of class, but you guys have been walking with me and studying with me long enough, so you should be more acclimated to receiving this information. And when all else fails, just press rewind. So have long-term and short-term dividend stocks in your portfolio. We just covered that. That's great. And also allocate earnings from other dividend-paying stocks into your most favorite dividend-paying stocks. This is done per the DRIP, the Dividend Reinvestment Program, which if you go to We Have Options class, in this Gold in the Crisis, you will see tutorials that show you how to set up your dividend reinvestment program. It was set up from the very beginning. That way you know I had a vision for us during the course of this particular Gold in the Crisis. Make sure it pays dividends. Let's go here. So I'm talking to you about blue stock. Essentially, what is a blue stock? Well, we know the criteria that we're interested in, because we know we want to invest our money in something that makes sense, and we're dealing with this on a longevity aspect. We're not dealing with the get paid week to week, bi-weekly or month to month paradigm. That paradigm has us secluded. It has inadvertently made us alienate ourselves from opportunities that exist, because we're so used to getting money on a week to week basis, bi-weekly basis, and month to month basis that we can't understand or fathom making money on a every 10-year, 20-year basis. I know it sounds nuts, but that's where the real money is at. The real money is in the long game. The real money is in the profits. The real money is in forecasting. Because the people will have a better read of the future. And trust me, when it comes to money, it's easier to tell the future than it is to tell the present. You don't know what may become of the check that you get this week. You have no idea what kind of miscellaneous warfare takes place week to week, bi-weekly, and month to month. Is very difficult when you get a check week to week, bi-weekly, and month to month. It's amazing that we even survive in these conditions, because life demands your attention every single day. But instead of you getting paid every single day, you get paid every week, every bi-weekly, or every month. Now, it is harder to actually understand what you will do with money on a week to week, bi-weekly, month-to-month basis than it is to understand what you do with money every 10 years. Because that accumulation of wealth, if I understand, oh, I'm walking into $30,000, definitely I'm walking into, you have so much that you can, by design, interpret or create for yourself seeing 30 years from now. Because anyone can tell you right now what they don't want to be 30 years from now, but they can't control what they will not be per se right now. 10 years from now, I can say, I don't plan on doing the things that I'm doing this year. Because many of you know whatever you're doing this year is probably what you're going to be doing next year. But many of you can forecast, I'll be damned if that's the case 10 years from now or 5 years from now. Now, you may not know how you're going to get from point A to point B being 5 or 10 years from now, point A being 1 in the now. But what you do know, nonetheless, you'll be damned. So in a lot of instances, when it comes to money, it's easier to forecast the future than it is to deal with the present. I hope that's understood. So blue stock, we got to get you out of the mindset of the week-to-week thought process and get you in the mindset of the long-term, 5 years, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 25 years from now. You got to get back in that mindset, because that happens eventually. With or without you, 25 years happens. And if you have no plan but to do what you do week to week, the week-to-week hustle eventually catches up with you and things become ambiguous. Things become opaque. Okay? So blue stock criteria for us to invest in a blue stock or blue chip stock. Let me say it like that. For us to invest in what's called a blue chip stock, for long-term investments, such as the dividend reinvestment program, you want to look for a market cap that's normally in the billions. You want to know that it's a familiar name, a household name. You want to know that they've been consistent throughout the years and gradually grow the amount of dividends that they pay out to the people that invested in the company. So you as an owner, when you have shares in the company, you want to make sure you invest. This is why I tell people for the GameStop, there's times you just got to feel a vibe. I say, yo, invest in GME. I said that about 2-3 weeks ago. People wanted more text. I'm like, what you need another text notification for? I said, invest in GME and hold tight for at least a month. Hold tight straight into the 15th, past the 15th of the following month that we're coming into. Why did I say that? Because the new PlayStation is coming out and the new Xbox is coming out. And we're in the pandemic and people still have to be in their house. So anything that demands you be in the house and you can be entertained while in the house, it was a no-brainer for me. So I sent out a text notification a little less than 3 weeks ago and said, invest in GME, which is GameStop. And so many of my students reposted last week, yo, thank you so much. I bought some contracts, because you know I told y'all about the contracts too. Yo, how you know this? Because I just pay attention to what's really going on here. The pandemic isn't over. And you can barely buy web cameras and anything associated with the internet. You go to any Best Buy. I literally go into these stores and ask what is missing. If it's available, I'm not interested in it. Like, what the hell? This brother came into the store and he's looking for what's not available, because that's a hint at what I should be investing in. So I just think different. Oh, there's no webcams around? I need to know who's the company's making webcams. Okay, there's no, and then eventually Eureka happens. Oh yeah, would you like to sign up for the new PlayStation? Because you know it's not going to be available. I'm like, what's not going to be available? The new PlayStation. Like, yo, that means the new Xbox probably won't be available. And who sells it? There's a company that sells both. And are there any other companies that sell these two things? Because I know their revenue streams will go up just on the strength of that, because I do the numbers and I realize gaming has went up. And it's a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar industry all over the world, especially as of the last 3 to 5 years. It has grown exponentially. They have gambling that's involved in it now. They have tournaments that's involved with it. People are making big money. People are making money playing games. Facts. And we're in a pandemic and people can't be outside as much. So it was a no-brainer. So those are your short-term, very short-term investments. I'm not going to be in GameStop till I'm 30 years old, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, 50 years from now. Yeah, I'm going to invest my money in GameStop. Nah, that's not exactly how you invest in something like that. That's more in the now. So I was able to project between the date that I gave and into November, hey, we should buy some options and we should buy some shares. That's how the game goes for that. Okay? But when we're talking about dividend reinvestments, you want to make sure for the blue chip stocks, the companies that you feel, they're going to be around at least, give me 30, 40 years if I decide to cash out. Who you think going to be around 30 years from now? Let me look at their history and see if they was around 30 years ago. And if they was around 30 years ago, they'll probably be around 30 years from now, especially if they're a household name with a market capitalization of $1 billion plus, as well as them gradually growing the amount of dividends that they give to the investors or owners, that is yourself. And let's make sure that they're making more than they're paying out. And if they're making more than they're paying out, let's make sure that they're over 30%. Or at 30%. This is the criteria. So then you can more or less rest assured, man, my money's good the next 20 years. But why I keep saying 20 years? We're going to get to that. So you're protecting your purchasing power. I just finished discussing all that. Next, dividends have a lower standard deviation or variability. I know. What the hell are you talking about, right? So you want to make sure that first of all, dividends have a lower standard deviation or variability. Variability, variables, it varies. Diversity. Doesn't have much. Deviation has a lower standard deviation. When people deviate, what does it mean? They off the marker. They off point. They got let off the path. So dividends have a lower standard deviation or variability. This means a high standard deviation shows that the data is widely spread, less reliable, and a low standard deviation shows that the data are inclusive or clustered closely around the mean being the average. So if you see a low standard deviation, what we're saying is on the average, that's what we mean by mean, on the average, it doesn't oscillate, it doesn't go up and down, it's kind of stays consistently the course. That's what we mean by gradual growth, that there's a pattern there, there's a recurring theme there, that we have a level of anticipation. We know what to expect from 1 year to the next, from 5 years to the next 5 years, from 10 years to the next. We can kind of look at this. So that's called a low standard deviation or variability. That's what that's called. These terms will help you make money, not so much the words, but the understanding of the phenomena. When you put these things together, this is how you're gonna know how to invest in the right company. The same way I know how to invest in the right company, because I'm looking for the market cap to be $1 billion+, for it to be a household name, for it to have a low standard deviation or variability. Dividends in general have that. The blue chip stocks will have it more. And that's what we mean by a low standard deviation shows that the data is clustered closely around the mean, closely around the average. We're not seeing much oscillation, not much up and down, up and down, up and down phenomena. Okay? So let's look at 3M. Here's another prime example. Now it costs right now $170 a share. Do not let that disturb you. So you say, Polite, I want to invest in a company, right? But I mean, dang, they're giving us a few dollars for investing $170. Now I want to get something like Coca-Cola because you know it's cheaper and I can buy a whole bunch of shares, but Coca-Cola's only giving you 41 cents. So I need you guys to walk with me on this. So here's a great company to invest in, because when you go back at least 60 years, they've been growing the payouts gradually. And they're a major company encompassing many of the demands and essential needs of human beings. Check them out, 3M, okay? That's the ticker symbol. Look at the ticker symbol, okay? Let's cook. Let's look at the 3M model, 25-year projection of stock, okay? Let's look at this. We're gonna project 25 years into the future. 25 years into the future, we're gonna project. We're gonna say, I'm investing in the 3M model 25 years forward. What on earth does that mean? Well, it's called compound annual growth of dividend. This is the term that is widely used now per Warren Buffett, right? The snowball effect. Because I should be able, if I'm investing in dividends, I should be able to put my money in one time and be able to project 25 years from now, 10 years from now, how much would my one-time investment yield me? So then the compound annual growth of the stock price at 7.5%. A one-time investment of $1,000 in the 3M stock 25 years from now, when I employed the dividend reinvestment program, this means that if I put $1,000 right now into this $170, well, $150 at that time, right? But if I put $1,000 down and buy as much shares as I can buy for $150, $170 from 3M, what would my one-time investment of $1,000 into this $170 stock return in 25 years? If you put $1,000 down right now into 3M Only 1,000. In 25 years from now, you would make $23,789 because every time you get a return on your investment, you're setting up your system in Fidelity to throw it back in. So every time 3M gives you a dividend payout, you don't touch it. You automatically let it go back in. And what happens is, as they're paying you out every 3 months on the quarter, 4 times a year, the money that they give you for investing in their company goes back into the same stock, and eventually you're employing compound interest, which is called the snowball effect, because eventually you're buying shares from the same $1,000 that's turning into 1,012, turning into 1,100, turning into 1,500, turns into 2,000. Eventually, every time you get a return from that company, every time you get a dividend payout 4 times a year, and you don't touch it, that same money's going back in to grow your ownership. And if you only invested $1,000 today, 25 years from now, if all you ever did was put $1,000 into 3M right now, you would have $23,789 25 years from now. And if you didn't reinvest the money and you put the $1,000 in to get your dividend returns, 25 years from now, if you don't employ the dividend reinvestment program, you will have $6,442. So you will have made how much money? Let's take a look at this. Let's look at the snowball effect. Next slide. What just happened here with 3M? Well, you put a one-time investment of $1,000 in this stock. That's $170 today. 25 years from now, it becomes $17,346. This means that you multiplied your money 17 times. And if you had 4 of those $1,000 today, you would guarantee yourself $100,000 25 years from now. But can we think 25 years from now? We all F up $1,000. I don't care what you say. $1,000 is less than $100 a year. I mean, less than $100 a month inside of a year. If you manage to do it 4 times, you guarantee yourself $100,000. But if you only did it but once every 25 years, you will get $23,000 plus dollars. That $1,000 almost makes you 4 times that of the same money from a non-reinvestment. So if you say, hey, I just want to invest, but I don't want the monies I get from every time I get paid my dividend, I don't know, I don't want to reinvest it back into the program. Just pay me my dividend and let me see what it is. Well, guess what? You're going to make 4 times that of the amount. But what if you say, reinvest my $1,000? Whatever I get from my dividend payouts, just reinvest whatever I get from the payout and put it back into the same company. That means you're going to make 17 times the amount of money. Yes, it took 25 years to make 17 times that amount of money. But guess what? You spent $1,000 on the TV. You spent some money on clothes and shirts, baby showers, birthday parties, whatever, a combination of 2 or 3 of those things. Maybe one thing. You bought a car a little more expensive than you needed to buy. You ain't get 17 times nothing back from that. In 100 years. In 300 years. Your children won't be impacted by it. Nobody will. But watch this. For so long as this company continues to do good, even in your absence, your children can inherit this and they get paid every 3 months. This is what you call wealth stewardship. You just set the stage to not only be paid for as long as this stays consistent, but for generations to come. And by the time you're up to the point where generations come, there is no worry about losing anything. This is inherited wealth. If they inherited $20, they're still $20 richer than they were, let alone 100,000. And then by that time, the snowball effect, when the next generation inherits the snowball effect, the next generation is guaranteed what, people? Well, in the working model, if we did it 4 times the $1,000, we get $100,000 every 25 years. You might see that twice in your lifetime. So in your second trip, you getting $200,000. by the time your child is 25 years old, they're definitely past $250,000 they're guaranteed to get. And by the time your child becomes a 50-year-old, they're looking at 3/4 upwards per annual. And then your child's child is always looking at $1 million. You're just setting the stage so this drama can stop with this poverty bull crap. We just want to stop poverty. That's what we're doing here. And you can taste this in this lifetime without saying, damn, I sacrificed so much for my children. I mean, damn, it's a noble thing to do, but shit, I'm living hard. I don't even know if I can make it up to the children. If I'm going to keep living hard, nope, we're not doing that. You're going to make money in this lifetime, and it will perpetuate itself every generation. What you do now will empower your bloodline, starting from you, effective immediately. You just have to have vision. You just have to have patient money. This is called wealth stewardship. Okay, and if you never reinvested, you earn 6 times over. But if you do reinvest, you earn 17 times over. I mean, earning 17 times that of the amount of anything that you invest in when you consider the principal. I don't give a damn if it takes 25 years. Give me that. Give me that. And I believe Coca-Cola will be around when my daughter is 50 years old. I just believe that. Call me stupid. You walking with me? There's just some companies you just gotta believe. Certain airlines you just gotta believe. They're going to be around. Before I was alive, they've been flying people. While I'm alive, they're flying people. And I'm sure my children are going to use them to fly too. And they're paying dividends too. So why are we playing around here? All we need is one person to start the ball, the snowball, to roll, and everybody's going to win from here on, ad infinitum. We just need one person to be wise enough in the family bloodline. One person to make that sacrifice. One person, it's not even a sacrifice. Pardon my language. It's an investment. An educated investment. An informed decision. We just need one person in the family, and you can eradicate poverty for generations to come. This is the blueprint. Scratch that. This is the black print. Wow. Okay. Put a lot of work in. I should save this for next week. I'm going to save this for next week. I want to go into overkill. I want to keep you guys inside of an hour frame because I know I've been doing them 2-hour things. You can read this over, but we'll continue this the following week, and then we'll break open and start talking some other stuff because there's some more things we need to discuss about the options and more clarity I want to give people based on questions that's asked. So I'll conclude right now, but understand this, we will deal with this next week to continue our discussions about rate of return, interest, compounding, additional contributions, and frequency of contributions. We're going to discuss this next week. Keep these slides. Okay, because this is the model. So that way you guys can take the time out and you can actually exercise. Oh, you know what? I want to see how much does this amount to if I invest $1,000 and 10 years goes by and the rate of return is 25%. And then if I add additional monies of my own, like $50, then per quarter based on the frequency, what is the interest that compounds annually? We need to do that math so you can sit here and actually have the ability to prophesize. You have the tools. I'm going to give you the tools to prophesize. You'll get excited. We need to start getting excited about projecting into the future. Yo, I just took class with Polite, and now I know how to calculate my future 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years. It starts making you look forward to the future. A lot of us grimace at the idea of the future because we're not sure what we're walking into. But when you take this class, you'll be given the tools to learn how to walk into the future with optimism. Not cynicism, not pessimism, optimism. That's what we're talking about right here. Imagine you sitting here saying, yo, 10 years from now come, oh, we lit. 20 years from now, and you just counting down the clock. You feeling good about it because everything that you do adds up to that moment to make sure your life is easier and your children's. You have a peace of mind to know that when you're gone, everything is set up because you can't stop the snowball from rolling. Once that ball starts rolling down, you know it can only mean great proportions. You just gotta set it off. You just gotta initiate the process. Once you initiate the process, you're done. You lamented your claim into the future as a noteworthy ancestor. And not only do you get the glory for what you do in the future for your family, your children, your posterity, you've also set the stage for you to come out the muck and the mire and be able to bear witness to this energy in this lifetime. Because you should not have to work to the sweat of the brow in your 50s and in your 60s and in your 70s. Those should be the best years of your life. Everything you've done when you was younger should amount to your old age. And you should be able to reflect and say, man, I could have did a lot of things better, but God damn it, I did so much. I'm proud of myself. You should be able to pat yourself on the back and say, I'm glad I spent a great portion of my youth to make sure that my older years are not hard. We have to start thinking like this. You can still enjoy life now. I've designed it that way with these courses, but make sure you get a hold of the reading material in equity or iniquity, debt wealth or asset wealth. You'll need it in the course to come, and you'll need it as we close out this course. I taught them how to buy a dollar with a few pennies. When this course concludes, you will get all this data and more. Believe me when I tell you, be patient with me, my people. It's the way I like to teach. I got my ways. I apologize. I got my ways. But I never sell you short. When you get the product in your possession, you'll say, man, this is the black print. I don't play games, and I will see you next week. Be sure to know that we going digital. Get your class right now, trading cryptocurrency and Forex. Going digital, wealth in the pandemic. This is the best time. I told you what hour we was in when we started Gold in the Crisis. We are nearing that same hour again, but this time for trading crypto. And I'm doing the Forex so people ask about it quite often, so I'm gonna get in there. And there's money to be made, especially around election season for Forex, so we're gonna definitely get into that. Because currency is big during election season, particularly American politics. This event comes about every 4 years. But who would know that on this 4th year, we call election season, that we will also have a pandemic and be in economic crisis. This sounds horrible, and is for a lot of people that are not us. We should be elated at the opportunity. We should relish at the concept of even investing and studying right now in real time to reap as much benefits as possible before this crisis is over. And that's how insane this sounds. We are blessed to live in this crisis. We've been blessed. And blessings come with many subtleties, and this is one of them. So peace and Aswitigador, Black Power, perpetual success, Iluvu.